All right, we're gonna start right now. And I want to say welcome once again. Sorry, can you please hold on? All right. I'm going to say welcome to the Data Edge Series February edition 2026. To those that are just joining us, the Digital Edge Series is a webinar that occurs every last Thursday of the month. You can check us out at Legacy Lab NG on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. If you can hear me, kindly send an emoji. That's how it's done here. If you know you can hear me, kindly send an emoji to welcome everyone to the series tonight. All right, you're welcome. You're welcome once again. Y'all welcome. And I'm your host for tonight, Omomi. And before I welcome on board the speaker, I'd like to say a little about him. First and foremost, is the lead for GDG on campus FUOYE. There's one thing we do here if you're just joining us for the first time. While the speaker is being introduced, we're saying an emoji to welcome the speaker. So once again, I'm going to be introducing our speaker. It goes by the name Xela Oladipupo. He's a software engineer and the current lead for GDG on campus FUOYE. GDG means Google Developers Group on campus FUOYE, and is a software engineer. He's here to share a very, very great insight into the topic, which says mobile first, offline capable, how to build mobile first, offline capable solutions using React Native. Building app is one thing, building them to survive Nigerian network is another reality on its own. And our speaker tonight will be doing justice to this topic. So let's welcome on board our speaker for tonight, Xela Oladipupo. You're welcome. Kindly take the mic.
Good evening, everyone. How are we all doing?
I'll say we are doing fine.
Okay, that's amazing. If you cannot, well, I'll be the speaker for today. So, for positive feedback or just any feedback at all, you can just drop it in the in-chat message or drop an emoji. So, ensure you are following, right? So, as Miss Amawumi has introduced me, I am Xela Oladipupo, GDGoC FUOYE current lead and also a software engineer. So the topic we are going to be looking at is building mobile first solutions for Nigeria with React Native, right? Let's break down things, right? What is React Native? React Native is a cross-platform framework that you can use to write and build and develop mobile apps without having to duplicate for each architecture. Because in the mobile world, we have the common iOS and common Android, right? But these are two distinct operating systems which run different app binaries. For iOS, we have the IPA file, and for Android, we have the APK file, which usually you when you want to build a mobile app, you have to build for separate architectures using native languages like Kotlin, Java, Swift, or Objective C, right? So React Native bridges that gap by requiring you to only write a single code base for multiple architectures, multiple operating systems, which in our case is Android and iOS, right? So now we have tackled what React Native is. and we know what or where or what Nigeria is. So I might just skip that. Then building our offline first solutions, right? Because we know the network issue has not been justifiable, right? From the dawn of time, it's been now MTN versus Airtel versus Glo and all around like that. So it's usually a prominent problem in African countries, especially and including Nigeria, right? So building mobile first solutions, right, is that support offline capabilities is very important to maintain the loop and to maintain connectivity, and also for cases of emergencies whereby you don't need to have a stable connection to be able to make an inquiry or to make a make communication pretty much without having to have a stable connection is really important, right? So that aside, even before diving into the offline capabilities or trying to build the offline capabilities, why why do we pick building mobile apps, right? Why do we want to build mobile apps? Yeah. Uh in my own opinion, right? I'm going to use a use case as an example. I'm going to use a use case as an example. Early last year, which was 2025, I was privileged to be able to dive into the world of bots, like WhatsApp bots, right? Whereby I you send a message, the bot processes your message, and based on that message, you can perform some certain actions, right? But during the phase of building that WhatsApp, that commercial bot, right, I discovered that Meta can just come up one day and decide to ban the accounts. That's one. Then two, the connectivity, the architecture might be shaky in the sense that it is not secure enough. Anybody that have access to your WhatsApp literally have access to your informations, your messages, your credentials that you've shared with the particular bots, right? Well, we have um certain certain ways or certain tactics that you can put in place to ensure security, but it is not on par to when you are handling your security yourself, right? So we had to pivot into building a separate mobile app that we ourselves control. We can add features and so on and so forth. Because if we are going to be relying on the WhatsApp architecture, we have limited features that we can add because we have to work with the features that WhatsApp provide. So pivoting into our own mobile application was the best decision we could have made that year, and it really paid off. I will be very frank with that. It really paid off because we were both able to add features that people have been aching to have on other applications, on other e-commerce applications that was not there, right? And we were able to get customer feedbacks, able to make bug changes, bug fixes, and the likes. So that's one advantage, right? You have flexibility over the features that you introduce to your users. You have control over the architecture. You have control over the system, right? And also you have control over what goes in and what goes out, and pretty much all the permission, all the authority, it's in your hands, right? So that makes sense. We've tackled why we should build with mobile, or why we should build for mobile, right? So now let's dive into like understanding the typical Nigerian, right? Most people, we use how do I want to put it, low range or budget Android phone. The typical Nigerians, we use budget or low range phones, which the RAM usually ranges from probably 2 gig to 4 gig of RAM space. But with the current technology that is being introduced into the gadget market, I think I'm seeing more of 8 gig RAM phones and 12 gig RAM phones. But the average Nigerian still uses the 2 gig RAM to 4 gig RAM devices, whereby your application has to be compact enough to be able to serve. That's why most of these big companies, they've been able to build their applications to be able to support both high-end device or high-end devices and low-range devices also. So now we already know that this is a reality. This is the market. You have to build architectures that conform to that, right? And also, we've talked about network connectivity, and we just talked about RAM space and like the computational power of the devices. So, mobile first here means small app bundle sizes, offline support, fast startup time, minimal API calls, and smart caching. In the sense that when you are now building for offline capabilities, right? Instead of having to, let's say, for example, now on a website, when you visit a website, if you visit page one, you have to make an API call to interact with page one. You interact with page two, you have to make an API call to interact with page two, and so on and so forth, right? When you come back to that specific website, you have to make the same API calls to be able to get the latest information, right? Which might not change frequently. But on a mobile app, there are specific mechanisms that you can implement that make sure that you put smart caching in places where you know that the data does not change frequently. I'm going to be using like a bank app, for example, right? When you log into your bank app, we have probably like 260 something banks, which they don't change every day. So instead of fetching 260 bank data each time the user open the app, once you fetch it once, you can capture it for a specific amount of time, usually 7 days, right? Or probably 2 weeks, because it's not every day a new bank is being like introduced, right? So those are examples of sites that you implement caching that make sure that your mobile app it is compatible enough to work with offline support, whereby you don't have to make API calls for each and every request you are trying to make. So we've talked about why we are choosing React Native, right? I'll just dive into that a bit more, right? Because I've explained that it is a single code base for each architecture. Is a single code base that can spread across each architecture, which is iOS and Android. It has a good huge community. Literally, if you type into YouTube or your Chrome or if you make your research, right, it's JavaScript is among the top 10, then React Native follows, right? So that's pretty much it. It's easy to build with, and it is very it takes minimal time to be able to grasp the concept of things. So now we're not just building applications, right? We're not just building applications, we are building systems. Because if we are building just applications, right, you just come, the user uses your app, blah blah blah, like that, and it goes. There is no scalability, there is no architecture, there is no set architecture in place that define your app as a separate system on its own. People just know it as that app that you can just go into, come in and go out. But building your app as a system requires a set a set set of rules or a set of guidelines you have to follow, which I'll be listing a few, which is very broad. Is very broad. So we have a lot of features when it comes to building an app as a system. We have scalability, we have maintainability, we have maintainability, we have scalability, we have uh what was that again? We have those two work hand in hand, right? Then when it comes to system design, also you have to implement system design in the sense that how your app works, how your system behaves is also crucial when you are building apps as systems, right? Because you as a developer, you have all the power in the world to build something and just push it out there without receiving any feedback. But your user experience is what has a cherry on top to whatever you are building. Your user feedback is what adds the cherry on top in whatever you are building. Being able to take those feedback and form it into a constructive method to be used on your mobile app to make it better, to make your systems better is also crucial. So that's I'm just bouncing back and forth between what's React Native, what does it do, why you should build with it, why we need offline support and stuff like that. So I've used bank apps as example. There are literally a lot of apps that can implement offline support first. Now let's take for example now. I'm a student in FUOYE, right? I've not eaten anything since morning, right? And I don't have data. I need data to get subscription so I can make transfers, right? In the sense of an online first bank app now, I have to put on my data, whereas I'm kind of stranded and that's the end of the line for me. But let's say, for example, now we have a mobile first solution for that banking app, whereby once you make your request, there is a mechanism that queues your request and make sure that, okay, once it gains connectivity back, it will execute those requests and make sure that your account is debited, right? So let's say, for example, now I open my CUDA now and they have the offline support. CUDA used to have that offline support for airtime actually and data, but I think they scrapped it off due to some issues. I'm not sure, but you can literally go into the CUDA app then and buy airtime without putting on your data, and it would enter. Then once you have enough data, or once you get data right, it automatically picks that request you made while offline and call it for you to be able to make sure that, okay, the account is debited, everything is good, the numbers are aligning. We're running a business here, we're not running charity, so there are numbers asked to align, right? And that's that. So there are many use cases, there are many solutions that the capabilities, the possibilities are endless. Like, it's just is amazing, right? So we talk about how the average Nigerian uses a 2 gig to 4 gig RAM 4 gig RAM device, right? So let's talk about performance optimizations for low-end devices, right? So when you are building mobile apps that support offline capabilities, first thing first, you should avoid heavy libraries. Every library, what is a library, right? A library is a set of predefined codes that can be reused anywhere in your application. So let's say, for example, now I want to make a basic calculation of probably, if let's just make it in the real world sense. Let me not just use vague or layman and technical terms. Let's say, for example, now the action is to retrieve the balance, of a user. Instead of writing that function every single time I want to use it in my application, I can literally just import it as a library instead to be reused in any other parts of my application. So it's a library, it's a set of reusable functions, reusable code blocks that are very essential. Like, literally any big application, every big company that you have out there, they don't write each function numerous times. They write it once, they use it as a reusable component, as a reusable function, or as a reusable library, right? So that's how that works, right? For performance optimization, you have to avoid every library. So make sure that once, for the example that I used now, right? says to fetch balance pretty much. So when you are using that particular library, there are libraries that they fetch balance and they do all that stuff. So let's say, for example, now library one uses fetches only balance, but library two fetches balance and sync the balance to the user data. When you know that, you don't need the sync function from the library that actually syncs the balance. You pick the one that only has the function that you need, thereby reducing significantly your library sizes, and also it boosts optimization in that sense, because unused code is usually called dead code. Like that's one a term in technical settings. Unused code is usually called dead code, and anything that is dead, right, is not good. It takes up space pretty much. So you would want to always avoid that. So avoiding dead code or unused code is very crucial. So you just use lightweight libraries in your applications to make it much more optimized for low-end devices. Then you implement lazy loading screens. Let's see. I'm going to present my screen once it is 7:40. I'm going to present my screen. I just want to skim through the technical aspect of things, like the theoretical technical aspect of things. So when another example, right, is to lazy load screens. What is lazy loading? Lazy loading is whereby instead of loading everything on a particular screen at once, you load them individually. Let's say, for example, now you load them individually and you load them when they are required. So let's say, for example, now on your normal banking app interface, they'll fetch your profile, which includes your name, your phone number, and some other credentials. They'll fetch your current balance, and they'll fetch your list of transaction history. For lazy loading now, let's say, for example, now your transaction history, you have to click a button to go to that screen. An app without a lazy loading functionality would be loading with fetching that transaction history on that screen even without navigating there, whereby you might not even need, all what you want to check is your balance, which requires only one API call. But without lazy loading, you are already fetching the transaction history on the next screen, which is requiring computational expenses. So with lazy loading, right, you only load, or you only fetch the request, or you only fetch the data when it is required, pretty much. So that's that, and this contributes greatly to performance optimizations. And also we've talked about caching, whereby you have 260 plus banks. Instead of fetching them every single time the user opens the app, you can just fetch it once and cache it for a specific period of time, which usually for banks you can just put it at a week or so, I guess. But it's not every day we create banks. It's not every day a new bank is being introduced to the market. But that is that. Yeah. So also too, you might be wondering how it works, whereby how do I get an updated version of the data? There are also mechanisms that you can put in place, right? So let's say, for example, now I have 262 banks in my cache. A request is being made every stale time. So there is difference between cached period of time, and there's the stale time. That means when the data is stale, that means it's no more needed to be cached anymore. So the request is being made. It compares it. If it is still 262 banks that it is there in the cache memory, it's not going to update it at all. It's just going to concludes that yes, there's no need for changes. But once it retrieves that there are 263 banks probably from the database, and it makes 262 from the cached memory, it automatically updates it. So there are mechanisms too you can also like put in place to make that come alive, like that come into place. That's that. Then pretty much performance is user experience. As I've said already, performance is user experience. You want your users to be able to enjoy the capabilities of your apps without any stress, whereby you open your app, it takes barely a second to load the data. You click, you make a transaction, it takes barely 3 seconds. That's why the likes of Opay and Pampay and these mobile money operators are scaling and receiving wild recognition, because they are fast, they are very fast, they are very adaptable, they are easy to use. My typical banking app now, if I open my UBA app on my phone now, I try to I try to put in my credentials. Then I get an OTP. For me to input that OTP, the keyboard is not getting into focus, whereby I cannot log in into my account anymore, which is a bad UX. This is a very serious issue now on the iOS. You can literally pick up your iOS device, go to Play Store, download UBA, you will see that problem. And this this reduces the quality of your application, whereby when user one test it out, sees that the error still persists, user two test it out, they bombard the reviews with this feedback, and you are not replying. Everybody just moves on to the next solution, and the next solution, it's been Opay and Pampay. They are literally mad features on there, seriously, because they discovered also recently they discovered also that users would prefer to send 9999, as in 9,999 naira, so as to avoid the stamp duty fee. They automatically included that button in the list of buttons that you can easily click to prefill the amount. So let's say, for example, now you want to send 10K now. Instead of pressing 10000, there's literally just a button you click, you press continue, you authenticate, and you're done. In the space of less than 3 seconds, your transaction is good. So performance too is optimization. It is performance optimization is also good user experience. A good performance optimized app is a good user experienced app, pretty much. Grab. So if your app is slow, I've said it already. If your app is slow or buggy, on even unusable, right? People will just literally move on. If you are not a big corporation, they'll think you are a scam and just move on, right? So I've explained how this kind of solution can span across mobile, can span across banking sectors, utility bills, and literally the possibilities are endless, right? So let me spin up my code base, so to get something up. So yeah, I'll just be showing us practically in less than some seconds. Let me just pull up my code base and present my screen. So while that is running, right, do we have questions? I'll literally need those questions, right? Because I know of all the technical terms that I've been throwing around, of all the words and stuff I've been throwing around, we should have one or two questions we really want to ask. We should have one or two concerns that would that you need to be addressed, right? So you can just drop it in the in-chat message, or if you are feeling confident enough, you can just pick up the mic and get it up.
All right, so I'll wait for the speakers to join us back. If you have questions, kindly drop your questions. There have been a lot of terms and terminologies this night. I need to rewatch the series to grab everything that has been said. And if you're like me that still wants to have a recap of what has been said so far, you can watch the recap of today's series on YouTube at Legacy Lab NG. You can get the recap of today's series over there. There are software developers on this series right now. Do you have questions related to building mobile first solution for Nigeria with React Native? Do you have questions? Let your questions flow in. I know you have questions, but I don't know why you're reluctant to ask. We have a speaker here that can sort your questions out right now. So far, so good. He has mentioned a lot of things, and I believe I've been getting a lot from today's series. So if you have question, please signify or you type it in the chat. So while we wait for our speaker to come back on board, since there are no questions yet, I would like to use this moment to um say thank you to some people that joined us, which are our partners. We have GDG on campus, XU, we have a corridor on board. If you can hear me, can you send an emoji where we'll welcome our partners? Kindly send an emoji. Please kindly notify me, Xela, when you're about to come on board, please, so that I can give the floor back to you. If you can hear me, kindly send an emoji, please. Send an emoji. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the emoji. All right. So we have lead for GDG on campus XO on board. You're welcome. We have the lead for Tech Hub XO on board, which is Benjamin. You are also welcome. Please let's endeavor to encourage your members to join us too. I believe we should have GDG on campus BOST in the building too. Those are our partners right now. Their logos will be added to our flyers very soon. They are our fresh partners. And you guys are highly welcome. This series is meant to enlighten, share information, share updates about the latest in tech space, the future works, and AI. And not just that, we also have the creative space too. So stay tuned on our social media and those are Legacy Lab NG on Twitter, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. Do well to follow us. And now we have a community group. I'm going to drop the community link into the chat box right now and be able to join us on the community group, and we'll be sharing a lot of updates right there. So do well to join us right now. And if you're joining us for the first time and you're able to tell us about yourself, your name, what you do, your technique, and if you're a novice and you're looking for direction, don't hesitate to ask questions. That's the main reason why we set up series like this, to help everyone out there. Either you're a tech expert or you're not a tech expert, this is for you. All right, sorry for the interruption. Okay, so any question? Any question? Yeah, I should have question though. I have a particular one though. For those that have never, oh, sorry about that, please. Please, sorry about that. I'm still living in my father's house. Those are the kind of interruptions you'll be getting once in a blue moon. All right, so as I was saying earlier, the question I have for you, Xela, is what do you have to say to people that have ideas right now and the kind of solutions they are trying to build. It does not have to do with React Native. What do you have to say to them if it does not have to do with React Native? What do you have to say to designers too? What do you have to say to what do you have to say about AI, the use of AI? Yeah. So are the three questions I have for you.
Uh, I think they are kind of like jumbled up together. Can you specify one at a time so I will be able to tackle them each?
All right. The first one is for people that have ideas, but they don't know how to use React Native. What do you have to say to them? What do you have to say to the designers too? You know, it's a different case to have idea. It's a different case for the designer to get the right hey, the right user interface for the audience. Yes. So that's the second one. And what do you have to say about the implementation of AI? Because yeah, they're saying that AI is taking our jobs, AI is doing this, AI is doing that. What do you have to say about AI in this space of solution, of building solution?
Okay. Let me, since the questions are kind of like interlinked or interconnected, right? I will just say it. I'll just explain it straightforward. React Native is just one of many frameworks, one of many coding capabilities you can use to build mobile apps. It is not specifically tied to the particular framework, but rather than the kind of system you have built or the kind of principles you implemented in the system you've built. So whenever you are building a system, regardless of the framework, regardless of the coding language you are using, probably Rust, TypeScript, JavaScript, blah blah blah, React Native, React, what you should have in mind when you are building large scale systems, like systems are not just mobile apps, you have to put in mind architectural design, system design, scalability, and also good user experience. So now let me present my screen. Present. Let me just present the entire. So can we all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
So recently, I've been trying to build a simple mobile application whereby it pulls the banner of a specific user, then updates it by adding overlays and designs, custom designs, right? Now, I didn't write a single line of code. Like I didn't go into any of the specific files to say I want to type anything into the IDE. Not at all. All I need to do is come up here, discuss or explain in length what I need and the principles for it to follow, and it does everything automatically for me, right? So let's say for example now this one is just a simple connect wallet, does connect the wallet, then it goes to the next screen, right? So when you want to update your banner, it fetches your X banner, but I've changed that functionality. Now, the first thing you have to do is to sign in to X, then click on the specific banner and implement and click on the specific banner and update it. Even this banner, right? Even this banner was generated by AI, right? About one of my, I think I used Gemini. I used Gemini. Or yeah, I used Gemini. If I should check my if I should check this one. All I need to do is to just give it a reference to use. It generated a couple of ones actually, and I just need to crop that using another tool called Funky. I just put it up here, just start new, open. I think I have a couple of ones that I've generated even from ChatGPT. come here, then crop it and feed it into the assets here, and you can just simply skim through and pick whatever you want to pick. So once you sign into X, right? Once you sign into X, you can authorize the application. I don't think I have my architecture signed in here, but I think I'll just try it out. I can try. Let me try signing in with Google. I might have forgotten the password. Here's my device. Okay. Um, so we have 481 296. Good. 91. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now just let me be signed in. Then you just authorize the application. Then it redirects you back. This might take a few minutes, or you can you should be able to close it and it will sign you back in. Let me try it again from here. Authorize, because this is not a mobile application. For some reason, it's not redirecting me back, right? But this literally, I have an APK generated already, which you can literally test out. And each and every architecture on this is being generated by AI. So it's not about AI stealing your job, right? It's about using it as a tool to scale faster. Because what keeps you afloat is your principles that you are using to build a solid system, right? A solid, scalable and maintainable, a scalable and sustainable system. The principles that I implement. So let's say, for example, now each device, each buttons works properly, each UX work as it should. Well, this user experience is bad already, right? Because I couldn't sign in, but with that, you can, with the principles that you already have, or the principles that you already have in place, you can literally make this better, because this could be picked up by a specific user, and you come back here and you fix it, and everything works hand in hand. So I feel AI is just,
I think there's an interruption in his network. So let's just give him a few minutes to come back. And I believe I've been learning a lot since the practical aspect, the speech aspect. Please, if you have joined the community, kindly signify. Because I've posted the link into the group. Okay, he's back. Can you take the floor now, Zella? All right.
I
I
changed
think
my
back.
password, so it automatically signed me out across all my
Okay.
groups.
All
So
right.
where was I cut off, right? I think I lost track. Where was I cut off?
We are talking about how AI is not taking our job.
Yeah, so consider it this way, right? AI is going to only take your job if you are doing the boring and repetitive part that AI is already capable of. Now, AI is capable of only writing code, right? All what it does is take your prompt, convert it into something it understands, spit out the code. It cannot piece each one into each one to make a solid, scalable system, right? So it's pretty much just writing code. But you, as an experienced software developer, you have that ground, right? You have that leverage in the sense that you understand how system works, you understand system design, understand how architectures work, right? So each and every feature on your app works right. It is scalable in the sense that, let's say, for example, now I want to add a new feature here. I don't have to go through thousands of lines of code. Everything is is up to date. Everything is sharp. Like the explanation I give, I think towards the beginning of the call, whereby you are not writing the same function every single place that you are using it. You just write it only once, and you make it a reusable component, right? Or a reusable function, or a library that you can import and use anywhere in your code. So what makes you stay afloat, right, is your system design and your architectural design knowledge to be able to build scalable system and maintainable systems that, even if another developer comes around to check on your code or to add some sort of feature in the next 10, 15, 20 years, he can easily come to the code base, read through, and be able to get what each function does, what each feature does, what each and every button does. And as I've said already, this whole application was built by AI. And the way I do it, right? Practical example of the way I do it is I don't just let it do everything. Right? AI tends to hallucinate, as we've known. When you tell it to write probably an article, it goes out of scope, it goes out of context. So context, so at some point when ChatGPT first came out, it was prompt engineering that was reigning, because you have to be able to prompt it. But now, with the emergence of other AI now, the one that beats the game, the one that gets the job done, is the one with the best context, right? So being able to supply that context is what is important, whereby the context in this form is the guidelines that you give it pertaining to system design. So let's say, for example, now I want to let's come here like this now. I want to I want to tell it to let's say, for example, I want to tell it to adjust this background, this one here, right? I don't want it to fill the screen. I don't want it to touch the edges. So you can just tell it that on on the update banner screen, adjust the preview to have a vertical and horizontal, it's horizontal margin, where the preview image is not touching either side of the screen. Done. So now it goes through. I think with am I using the right model? Then yeah. So just sit back, you monitor its progress, and it does that for you. So using more like a tool, you control you are you are the human here, you are the brain behind it. It is just like an assistant, right? So instead of expecting it to take over your job, work side by side with it to make your job easier and faster. And that's just it. Because at some point in time, right, it's not about who can write the longest line of code or who can spend the longest time on a particular project. It is the results that you put out there in the world that matters. Nobody is asking how many lines of code that make up Netflix. Nobody is asking the number of code that makes up WhatsApp. They are talking about the features that Netflix, the problem that Netflix have been able to solve, the features that they provide, and every other thing that has to do with the app itself, the system itself, and not what lines of code you have been writing or how many times. So it's just usually just for publicity sake, right? They just come online, put it on a blog that we use 20,000 lines of code to build Netflix, blah blah blah. But what is important is the features that are included in the application, which work to provide your users with good user experiences, right? And not just put aside your application as a scam or something that is just garbage, right? So yeah. So once it's done, you can just click keep and automatically adjust everything. And there are literally many models out there. There's ChatGPT, there's Claude AI, there's Codex, which is from Google. There's also anti-gravity too, which is also from Google. There's also Cursor too, which is usually nice when it comes to context management or AI code writing. So what you need to learn is the fundamentals, right? I've been learning Rust for a while now, right? And at some point I was like, I don't need to learn this thing in depth. All what I need to do is to be able to open a Rust code base and be able to understand what it deals with. Every other thing can be written and put in place easier and faster with AI, and you scale past every other person that is trying to beat probably hours of coding, trying to put it on their timeline that yes, I've been coding for 20 hours and stuff like that. You grab. So that's it on my end. I've spoken. I've spanned across why we build for mobile. I've spanned across how we build for mobile, why we build for mobile, why it should be offline first, why we are building specifically for Nigeria, the terms or the principles you have to put into place or the principles you have to consider when you are building offline first mobile solutions in Nigeria. And also, I'm not sure if I've been able to answer your question. Also, what is there for designers? What is there for other people that are scared that AI is going to take their job? The only footnote I'm going to give you is use AI as your assistant, use AI as a tool. Use AI as a tool or as your assistant rather than your replacement, rather than fearing it as your replacement. That's pretty much that. And I guess that's all from my end. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for that insight. That was enough to answer my question. And I believe a lot of us has learned from you today. All right. So if you have any questions can come up. Don't hesitate to ask before we move on. All right, no question. Once again, thank you very much, Zella, for the insights shared. If you're just joining us, don't forget to follow us on our social media handles at Legacy Lab NG on Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And also don't hesitate to join our community on WhatsApp via the link in the bio in the chat box. We'll be glad to have you on board. And if you have feedbacks, kindly use the link for the feedback in the chat box. Tell us what you want us to improve on. Tell us any other thing you would like us to, add to the series. If you are willing to come and share your insight, to do I say to chat us up. And thank you very much to our valued partners, Outnovately Africa, GDG on Campus, X2 FUOYE, Boesti Kere, Mr. Omosojoa Joseph, Ms. Esther, for Lauren Shaw, for their invaluable support. We are very, very thankful and grateful. Our speaker also dropped something right now. I said AI prompt and context engineering is important also. All right, so if you want to get a recap of this YouTube series, of this month series, sorry, kindly check us out on YouTube to watch it all over again and pick out every point that's been shared tonight. Thank you guys once again for joining us. See ya all next month, last Thursday. That is the last Thursday of March. See ya all. Set your schedule for last Thursday of March next month. Set your schedule, set your schedule, set your schedule. Good night. Have a wonderful night rest. Bye.